Welcome, dear listeners, to the shadows that linger beneath the moonlit skies of London. Tonight, we beckon you to journey with us into the heart of one of the most enigmatic and chilling tales that shroud the city in mystery. This is not merely a story. It is an invitation to walk through the veils of time into a realm where the past whispers to the present, where legends breed within the embrace of the night. Welcome to our podcast, where we unravel the tale of Highgate Cemetery and the legend of the Highgate Vampire. Nestled in the northern reaches of London lies Highgate Cemetery, an ancient necropolis that stands as a monument to the city's dead. But among the ornate tombstones and overgrown foliage, there whispers a story far darker than the shadows that dance between the graves. For Highgate is not only known for its Victorian grandeur, or its silent watch over London's illustrious dead. It harbors a legend that has chilled the blood of those who dare to delve into its depths. The legend of the Highgate Vampire. As we peel back the layers of history, we find ourselves entangled in a web of mystery and intrigue. Reports of eerie apparitions, chilling encounters, and unsolved mysteries have long cast a pall over this hallowed ground. What truths lurk behind the tales of the supernatural that have captivated the imaginations of many? Is it merely the whisper of the wind through the trees, or is there something more, something lurking in the shadows? In this podcast, we invite you to explore the eerie atmosphere, the historical significance, and the supernatural tales that have made Highgate Cemetery a place of fascination and fear. From the first sightings of spectral figures to the vampire hunts that captured the city's imagination, we will delve deep into the heart of the legend. So, lock your doors, dim your lights, and let your imagination wander as we embark on this journey together. But be warned, dear listeners, for in the tale of the Highgate Vampire, the line between the living and the dead is as thin as the veil that separates fact from folklore. Welcome to the mystery, the history, and the haunting allure of Highgate Cemetery. Let the story begin. in the heart of the 19th century. As London expanded rapidly beyond its ancient boundaries, the living pressed against the spaces reserved for the dead. The city's graveyards, burdened beneath the weight of ceaseless demands, whispered tales of decay and desecration. It was within this era of turmoil and transformation that the story of Highgate Cemetery began, a narrative etched in the stones of history and shrouded in an aura of mystery. Her tale unfolds in the year 1832, a time when London's burgeoning population and the ensuing public health crisis beckoned for a solution as grim as it was necessary. The traditional burial grounds, crammed into the heart of the bustling city, had become sources of morbid fascination and horror. Stories abounded of graves disturbed before their time, of bodies exhumed to make room for the new dead, creating a macabre tapestry of humanity's final resting place. In response to this dire situation, Parliament passed a series of acts, leading to the creation of the Magnificent Seven, a septet of grand, private cemeteries encircling London, designed to alleviate the burden on the inner city graveyards. Among these, Highgate Cemetery, established in 1839, emerged as a pinnacle of architectural beauty and somber elegance. Perched atop a hill overlooking London, it was as if Highgate stood guard over the city, a silent sentinel watching over the living and the dead. Conceived by Stephen Geary, an architect with a vision of grandeur and dignity, the cemetery was designed not merely as a burial ground, but as a sanctuary for the dead, and a place of contemplation for the living. Its lush landscapes, dotted with ancient trees, winding paths, and Victorian Gothic architecture, spoke of a reverence for those who had passed into the shadow of death. Highgate's allure was not just in its beauty or its role as a final resting place. It was a garden of remembrance, where monuments and mausoleums rose like sentinels, marking the passage of notable figures from the world of the living. Poets, philosophers, scientists, and revolutionaries found their final abode within its hallowed grounds, their legacies etched in stone and memory. That beneath the serene beauty and the whispered accolades of history, there lingered an air of the uncanny. For even as Highgate offered solace to the souls of the departed, it also harbored shadows within its embrace. The very atmosphere of the place, with its overgrown ivy, its crumbling statuary, and its secluded, shadowy nooks, seemed to whisper of secrets untold, of stories buried deep within the earth. Listen as we stand at the gates of Highgate Cemetery, we are about to step into a realm where history and legend intertwine, where the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead seems perilously thin. In the chapters to come, we will explore the tales of apparitions that roam the night, of a vampire that is said to dwell within these ancient grounds, and of the mortal men who sought to unravel the mysteries shrouded in the fog of London. But for now, let us pause and pay homage to the inception of Highgate Cemetery, to the vision that brought it into being, and to the countless stories that it holds within its embrace. For in the heart of London, Highgate stands as a monument to life, to death, and to the eternal dance between the two. Welcome, dear listeners, to the threshold of mystery. Welcome to Highgate Cemetery. As we delve deeper into the enigma of Highgate Cemetery, we find ourselves wandering amidst a landscape that is as haunting as it is historic. The cemetery's layout, a labyrinth of beauty and melancholy, was meticulously designed to be a place where the living could stroll among the dead, where nature and architecture combined to create a serene yet somber atmosphere. At the heart of Highgate Cemetery stands the Egyptian Avenue, an imposing gateway flanked by obelisks and adorned with ancient Egyptian symbols of death and rebirth. This avenue leads to the Circle of Lebanon, a majestic circular pathway surrounding a centuries-old cedar of Lebanon. Beneath this sentinel tree, vaults were constructed, burrowing into the earth, the testament to mankind's endeavor to touch the eternal. The terrace catacombs, another of Highgate's marvels, house the remains of the affluent and influential, their lives commemorated in sculptures and epitaphs that speak of accomplishments, love, and loss. Throughout the cemetery, Gothic tombs and Victorian mausoleums stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time, each bearing the name of someone who once walked the earth. Among these are the graves of cultural icons, political revolutionaries, and scientific pioneers. Their presence in Highgate underscores the cemetery's significance not just as a resting place for the dead, but as a repository of history, a bridge connecting the past and the present. As the years passed, Highgate Cemetery's allure began to wane. The Victorian fascination with death and the elaborate rituals surrounding it faded, leaving Highgate and its occupants to face the inevitable decay. By the mid-20th century, the cemetery had fallen into a state of neglect and disrepair. Overgrown vegetation reclaimed the land, obscuring tombstones and enveloping the once grand monuments in a shroud of green. The once meticulously maintained paths became choked with weeds, and the majestic structures succumbed to the relentless march of time, their facades crumbling, their inscriptions fading into oblivion. This descent into disrepair added a new layer to Highgate's mystique. The air of abandonment, the sense of being lost in time, lent the cemetery an eerie, almost otherworldly atmosphere. Stories began to circulate, whispers of shadows moving among the tombs, of figures seen lingering in the periphery, only to vanish when approached. The boundary between the living and the dead seemed to blur, as if the neglect had awakened something that lay dormant within the cemetery's confines. In the shadows of neglect, Highgate Cemetery transformed. What was once a prestigious burial ground became a canvas for the imagination, a place where fear, curiosity, and the supernatural intertwined. The eerie beauty of decay, the tales of those long gone, and the whispers of the unseen began to draw the curious, the brave, and those seeking to uncover the secrets that Highgate held within its embrace. Listen as we wander through the overgrown paths of Highgate, we must ask ourselves, what stories do these silent stones hold? What secrets lie buried beneath the ivy-covered tombs? And as the line between the past and the present grows ever more tenuous, what might we discover in the shadows of Highgate Cemetery? Join us as we continue to explore the mystery, the history, and the haunting allure of this sacred ground. In the shadows of London's history, amidst the overgrown pathways and crumbling tombs of Highgate Cemetery, a chilling legend began to stir. It was in the late 1960s and early 1970s that a new chapter in the cemetery's storied past was written, a chapter that would etch the name of Highgate into the annals of the supernatural. This was the era that gave birth to the legend of the Highgate Vampire, a tale that would captivate and terrify the city and beyond. The genesis of this spectral saga can be traced back to a series of inexplicable events and sightings within the cemetery's gates. Local newspapers began to report accounts from witnesses who claimed to have seen a tall, dark figure, possessing an ominous presence, roaming among the graves. These early sightings described the figure as having piercing red eyes that seemed to glow with an unnatural light, striking fear into the hearts of those who met its gaze. As the reports accumulated, so too did the stories of unusual phenomena within the cemetery. Visitors spoke of a sudden drop in temperature upon entering certain areas, of an oppressive atmosphere that seemed to weigh heavily upon the chest. Others reported hearing strange sounds, whispers that seemed to emanate from nowhere, footsteps that followed them but belonged to no visible source, and an unsettling feeling of being watched from the shadows. One of the most chilling accounts came from a couple walking home late one night along the cemetery's perimeter. They described seeing a creature with glowing eyes rise from the wall and float across the path before them, disappearing into the darkness. This encounter, like many others, was dismissed by skeptics as the product of imagination or the influence of the foggy London nights. That, for those who had experienced these encounters firsthand, the fear was all too real. The accumulation of these stories began to weave a tapestry of terror, drawing the interest of both the curious and the courageous. It was not long before the figure seen in the cemetery was labeled a vampire, a being thought to belong more to the pages of Gothic literature than the streets of London. Yet, the legend of the Highgate Vampire was not merely a tale of a solitary spectre. It hinted at something deeper, a malevolent force that had taken root within the cemetery's hallowed grounds. As the legend grew, so did the number of visitors to Highgate, drawn by a mix of fascination and fear. They came seeking the thrill of the hunt, the chance to glimpse the supernatural, or perhaps to debunk the tales that have captured the city's imagination. But the cemetery, with its labyrinthine paths and shadowed corners, kept its secrets well. Listen as we delve deeper into the darkness that envelops Highgate Cemetery. We find ourselves confronted with questions that challenge our understanding of the world. What truth lies behind the legend of the Highgate Vampire? Are these tales merely the product of collective hysteria, or is there something truly unexplainable lurking in the shadows of Highgate? Join us as we continue to explore the eerie encounters and the haunting mysteries that shroud this ancient necropolis. The tale of the Highgate Vampire is far from over, and its darkest chapters may yet be unwritten. As the legend of the Highgate Vampire seeped into the fabric of London's consciousness, it ignited a fervor that would lead to one of the most bizarre chapters in the city's history. This was not merely a tale to be whispered about in hushed tones. It became a saga that would see self-proclaimed vampire hunters descending upon Highgate Cemetery, each driven by a mix of bravery, curiosity, and a desire to confront the darkness head-on. Amidst this chaos, a rivalry emerged, one that would further enshroud the cemetery in a veil of mystery and intrigue. The figureheads of this unusual conflict were two men, each claiming to be the true vanquisher of the dark entity that haunted Highgate. Their methods and motivations differed, but their goal was the same: to uncover and eliminate the source of the supernatural disturbances. Armed with stakes, crucifixes, and holy water, they ventured into the night, leading expeditions into the cemetery's shadowed heart. The graves and mausoleums, silent witnesses to their endeavors, offered no answers, only more questions. As the hunts continued, so too did the sightings. The tales grew ever more elaborate, with reports of animals found drained of blood, and of an ominous figure seen floating above the ground. The cemetery, once a place of solemn beauty, had transformed into a battleground for those who sought to confront the unknown. The media, sensing the public's growing fascination, fanned the flames of the legend. Newspapers and television programs chronicled the latest developments in the hunt for the Highgate Vampire, blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Interviews with the vampire hunters, accounts of the latest sightings, and speculation about the vampire's origins became staple fare for a public eager for updates on the unfolding drama. This media frenzy not only heightened the legend, but also drew crowds to Highgate Cemetery. Some came in skepticism, others in fear. but all were drawn by the irresistible allure of the mystery. The cemetery's gates became a portal to a world where the boundaries between the living and the supernatural seemed to dissolve. Yet, amidst the spectacle, a sense of apprehension grew. The fervent activities of the vampire hunters, while captivating, also raised concerns about the sanctity of the cemetery and a respect owed to those interred within its bounds. The expeditions, often conducted without regard for the graves or the peace of the cemetery, sparked a debate about the line between seeking the truth and desecrating the past. Listen as we reflect on the events that unfolded during this tumultuous period, we are left to ponder the nature of belief and the power of legend. The story of the Highgate Vampire and the rivalry between the hunters speaks to the human desire to confront our fears, to seek answers in the face of the unknown. But it also serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of letting those fears drive us to actions that blur the lines between heroism and folly. As the legend of the Highgate Vampire continues to captivate the imagination, we must ask ourselves, what truths lie hidden in the shadows of Highgate Cemetery? And at what point does the hunt for monsters reveal the monsters within us? Join us as we continue to explore the dark corridors of history and legend, in search of answers that may forever remain just beyond your reach. In the shadow of the frenzy that the Highgate Vampire saga had become, a more measured examination began to take root. As the dust settled from the vampire hunters' expeditions and the media circus that had enveloped Highgate Cemetery, a quieter and equally fervent quest for understanding emerged. This chapter delves into the investigations conducted by those driven not by the thrill of the hunt, but by a desire to uncover the truth behind the claims of supernatural occurrences at Highgate Cemetery. The first strand of this inquiry led to historians, who meticulously sifted through the layers of the cemetery's past. They explored the origins of the burial ground, the cultural context of Victorian London's fascination with death, and the possible sources of the vampire legend within historical records. These scholars offered insights into how Highgate, with its Gothic architecture and overgrown vegetation, provided the perfect backdrop for a Gothic horror story to take root in the public imagination. They spoke of the cemetery's reflection of the Victorian obsession with mourning and the afterlife, suggesting that the legend of the Highgate Vampire was perhaps a modern manifestation of age-old fears and fascinations. Parallel to the historical investigation, paranormal experts entered the fray, armed with an array of equipment designed to detect the presence of the supernatural. Night after night, these investigators roamed the paths of Highgate Cemetery, their cameras and EMF meters at the ready. hoping to capture evidence of paranormal activity. Their interviews revealed a spectrum of beliefs. Some were convinced that the cemetery was a hot spot for psychic energy, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. Others approached the investigation with skepticism, seeking logical explanations for the sightings and experiences reported by visitors and locals alike. The voices of Highgate's residents added another layer to the narrative. In interviews, they recounted tales passed down through generations, personal encounters with the unexplained, and the impact of the vampire legend on their community. Some spoke of a sense of unease that lingered over the area, of nights when the air seemed charged with an inexplicable tension. Others dismissed the tales as fanciful stories, the products of overactive imaginations, and the cemetery's eerie ambience. Among the accounts, contradictions and corroborations intertwined, painting a complex picture of Highgate Cemetery. For every claim of a ghostly apparition or a chilling presence, there was a call for rational explanation. Misidentified animals, the tricks of light and shadow, or the simple power of suggestion. Some experiences defied easy explanation, leaving even the most skeptical investigators puzzled. This chapter, listeners, invites us to explore the intersection of history, belief, and the unexplained. It challenges us to consider the ways in which our environments, our histories, and our psyches can converge to create stories that resonate with our deepest fears and fascinations. The investigations into the Highgate Vampire legend, with their brand of historical inquiry, paranormal research, and personal testimony, remind us of the enduring allure of the unknown. As we stand on the threshold between skepticism and belief, we must ask ourselves, what truths lie buried in the heart of Highgate Cemetery? And how do the stories we tell about places like Highgate reflect our own attempts to grapple with the mysteries of life, death, and what lies beyond? The search for answers continues, a testament to the human desire to understand the darkness, both within and without. As the legend of the Highgate Vampire seeped into the veins of popular culture, it transcended its origins, becoming more than just a tale whispered in the shadows of an ancient cemetery. This chapter explores the indelible mark left by the legend on popular culture, and a paradoxical role it played in the preservation and restoration of Highgate Cemetery. The story of the Highgate Vampire captivated the imagination of a global audience, finding its way into books, films, and television shows. Writers and filmmakers, drawn to the eerie allure of the legend, wove narratives that blurred the lines between fact and fiction, between the historical Highgate and the one shrouded in supernatural mystery. These adaptations, while varying in their fidelity to the original accounts, shared a fascination with the themes of death, the afterlife, and the unknown, themes that are as old as storytelling itself. The legend also inspired a new generation of Gothic enthusiasts, who sign Highgate Cemetery the epitome of Victorian morbid romanticism. The image of the vampire, roaming among the crumbling tombs and overgrown pathways, became an icon of the Gothic subculture, further embedding the legend into the fabric of contemporary mythology. Yet, the impact of the Highgate Vampire saga extended beyond entertainment and subcultural aesthetics. The attention drawn by the legend highlighted the state of neglect and disrepair into which the cemetery had fallen by the mid-20th century. Public interest in the vampire tale brought Highgate Cemetery back into the public eye, but it also sparked a growing concern for the preservation of this historical site. Faced with the dual threats of vandalism, spurred in part by the vampire hunts and the natural decay of time, efforts were mobilized to save Highgate Cemetery. Conservation groups and local volunteers began to advocate for the restoration and protection of the cemetery, emphasizing its architectural, historical, and ecological significance. The Friends of Highgate Cemetery Trust was established, dedicated to the conservation of the cemetery for the public benefit. The restoration efforts were monumental. Overgrown vegetation was carefully cleared, revealing long-hidden tombs and monuments. Damaged structures were stabilized and restored, and measures were put in place to protect the cemetery's wildlife. Through these efforts, Highgate Cemetery was gradually transformed from a site of neglect into a place of beauty and tranquility, a testament to the enduring legacy of its residents and the stories that had brought it back from the brink of oblivion. The legend of the Highgate Vampire, while born from fear and fascination with the supernatural, played an unforeseen role in the cemetery's revival. It served as a catalyst for preservation, drawing attention to the need to safeguard our cultural heritage. The tale that had once sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it became a story of redemption, of a community coming together to preserve a piece of its history. Listeners, as we reflect on the journey of Highgate Cemetery, from a revered resting place to a stage for a modern legend, and finally to a site of conservation and cultural reflection, we are reminded of the complex relationship between history, folklore, and the places we hold sacred. The Highgate Vampire legend, with its blend of darkness and intrigue, not only captivated our imaginations, but also inspired us to look beyond the shadows, to see the value in preserving the stories and sites that connect us to our past. In the heart of London, Highgate Cemetery stands as a monument not just to those who rest there, but to the enduring power of legend to transform, to preserve, and to enlighten. The story of the Highgate Vampire is woven into the fabric of the cemetery, a reminder that even in the darkest tales, there can be found a light leading us back to the appreciation of our shared heritage. In the heart of London, amidst the ever-encroaching sprawl of modernity, Highgate Cemetery stands as a bastion of history, culture, and mystery. This chapter delves into the cemetery's esteemed status in the present day, exploring the concerted efforts to maintain and restore this iconic site, and the myriad challenges that accompany such a monumental task. Today, Highgate Cemetery is revered not only as a final resting place of the dead, but as a living museum of Victorian funerary art, a sanctuary for wildlife, and a testament to the city's rich historical tapestry. Its significance extends beyond the boundaries of London, recognized globally for its architectural beauty, its ecological value, and the stories it harbors within its ancient walls. The cemetery is a site of historical and cultural significance, a place where the past is preserved amidst the rush of the present, offering a quiet space for reflection on life, death, and the innumerable narratives in between. The task of maintaining Highgate Cemetery, however, is one fraught with challenges. The very elements that lend the site its atmospheric charm, the overgrown greenery, the weathered tombstones, the imposing mausoleums, also present obstacles to its preservation. Nature, while a vital part of the cemetery's allure, is an unrelenting force, with roots that threaten to disrupt graves, and foliage that obscures paths and monuments. The Friends of Highgate Cemetery Trust, along with a dedicated cadre of volunteers, faces these challenges head-on. Their efforts to restore the cemetery are a delicate balancing act, striving to preserve the site's natural beauty and historical integrity while ensuring its stability and accessibility for future generations. This involves not only the physical labor of clearing vegetation and repairing damaged structures, but also the meticulous work of conserving the cemetery's artistic and architectural features. One of the most significant challenges is the financial burden of restoration. Highgate Cemetery is a charity, reliant on donations, entrance fees, and the revenue from guided tours to fund its upkeep. The cost of restoration projects, from stabilizing ancient crypts to conserving historic monuments, is substantial. The trust must navigate the complexities of fundraising and resource allocation, all while adhering to its mission of preserving the cemetery for the public benefit. Despite these challenges, the efforts to maintain and restore Highgate Cemetery have borne fruit. Areas once lost to overgrowth have been reclaimed, revealing long-hidden gravestones and mausoleums. Structures on the brink of collapse have been stabilized, securing the cemetery's architectural heritage. The cemetery has also become a haven for wildlife, its wooded areas and undisturbed corners offering sanctuary to a variety of urban species. Listeners, as we consider the present and future of Highgate Cemetery, we are reminded of the importance of preserving such sites. They are not merely spaces for the dead, but repositories of history, art, and nature, connecting us to the past while providing solace and beauty in the present. The story of Highgate Cemetery is one of transformation, of a site once in peril, now painstakingly preserved as a cultural landmark. It is a testament to the dedication of those who recognize the value of our historical heritage, and a reminder of the ongoing responsibility to protect it. As the sun sets over Highgate Cemetery, casting long shadows among the tombstones, we are left to ponder the legacy of this remarkable place. It stands as a bridge between the past and present, a reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the enduring power of memory. In the silence of the cemetery, amidst the rustling leaves and the whispering winds, there echoes a call to remember, to honor, and to preserve. Highgate Cemetery, with its beauty, its mysteries, and its stories, continues to captivate, inspire, and remind us of the depth of our shared human experience. In the tapestry of London's landmarks, Highgate Cemetery holds a unique place, a site where history whispers from every corner, where art and nature intertwine under the watchful gaze of angels carved in stone. As we reach the final chapter of our journey through the shadows of Highgate, we explore its role as a magnet for tourists, creatives, and those drawn to the enigmatical lure of this hallowed ground. Highgate Cemetery has transcended its original purpose, becoming a destination for visitors from around the globe. They come not only to pay respects to the notable figures who rest here, but to experience the serene beauty and palpable history of this place. The cemetery's guided tours offer a window into the past, revealing stories of those who have shaped our world, from revolutionary thinkers to artists who captured the essence of the human spirit. The very atmosphere of Highgate, with its overgrown paths and silent statues, invites contemplation, making it a place of pilgrimage for those seeking connection with the past and inspiration for the future. This inspiration extends into the realms of literature, film, and art, where Highgate Cemetery has found a second life. Writers find in its moss-covered tombs and whispered legends material for tales that explore the depths of human emotion and the mysteries that lie beyond death. Filmmakers capture the cemetery's Gothic beauty, its ethereal landscapes serving as the backdrop for stories of love, loss, and the supernatural. Artists, drawn to the play of light and shadow among the tombstones, seek to capture the essence of Highgate's timeless beauty, creating works that evoke the serene yet somber atmosphere of this place. At the heart of Highgate Straw, amidst its historical significance and natural beauty, lies the enduring fascination with the legend of the Highgate Vampire. This tale, born from a combination of folklore, historical curiosities, and modern-day myth-making, has embedded itself in the cultural consciousness, becoming a symbol of the human fascination with the unknown. The legend, with its elements of horror, mystery, and the supernatural, speaks to our deepest fears and curiosities, inviting us to ponder the mysteries of life, death, and what may lie beyond. The atmospherical lure of Highgate Cemetery, with its blend of natural beauty and architectural splendor, plays a significant role in the legend's enduring appeal. The cemetery's winding paths, shadowed by ancient trees and lined with ornate tombs, create a setting that seems almost designed for tales of the supernatural. It is here, in this space, where the veil between the past and the present feels thin, that the legend of the Highgate Vampire finds its home, a reminder of the power of place to ignite the imagination. As we reflect on the story of Highgate Cemetery, from its origins to its place in the heart of popular culture, we are reminded of the enduring human desire to connect with the past, to explore the mysteries of the unseen, and to find beauty in the spaces between life and death. Highgate stands not just as a cemetery, but as a cultural landmark, a source of inspiration, and a testament to the stories that bind us across time. Listeners, as we conclude our journey through the gates of Highgate Cemetery, we carry with us the tales of those who have walked its paths, the legends that have grown in its shadows, and the sense of wonder that this place inspires. Highgate Cemetery remains a symbol of the complexity of the human experience, a place where history, art, and the mysteries of the unknown converge. It invites us to look deeper, to explore the shadows, and to find within them the stories that continue to captivate, terrify, and inspire. In the silence of Highgate, among the whispers of the past and the rustling of the leaves, we find not just a cemetery, but a portal to the infinite stories that define our existence. As we stand at the threshold of conclusion, beneath the shadow of Highgate Cemetery's ancient trees, a sense of timeless wonder envelops us. This journey, woven through tales of the past, whispered legends, and the silent watch of stone guardians, reaches its epilogue. Yet the story feels far from over. Highgate Cemetery, with its layers of history, its embrace of nature, and the legends that roam its paths like ghosts of the past, continues to beckon, a siren call to those who are drawn to the spaces where the veil between worlds is thin. The legend of the Highgate Vampire, a narrative as enigmatic as the cemetery itself, persists in a collective imagination, a testament to the human fascination with the unknown. This tale, rooted in the eerie atmosphere of Highgate and the mysteries it conceals, invites us to explore the darker corners of our curiosity, to confront our fears, and question the nature of the unseen. The vampire legend, with its blend of historical curiosity, supernatural intrigue, and the undeniable allure of the Gothic, remains an indelible part of Highgate's identity, a chapter in the larger story that this place tells. Highgate Cemetery stands as a symbol, not merely of the past, but of the intersection between history, culture, and the supernatural. It is a place where the stories of those who have come before us linger in the air, where the architectural beauty of tombs and monuments speaks of a bygone era's relationship with death and the afterlife. Highgate is where the natural world reclaims the creations of man, a reminder of the cycle of life and decay. This cemetery, with its legends and lore, its beauty and its mystery, encapsulates the human experience, our desire to remember, to honor, and to understand the unknown. The allure of Highgate Cemetery and the legend of the Highgate Vampire endures because it touches something deep within us, a primal curiosity, a need to connect with the past, and a fascination with the boundary between life and death. Highgate challenges us to look beyond the surface, to see the stories etched in stone and whispered by the wind, and to consider our place in the continuum of history. Listeners, as we conclude this exploration of Highgate Cemetery, we are reminded that some stories, like the legends that haunt this hallowed ground, do not truly end. They continue to unfold, to evolve, and to inspire, as long as there are those who seek to uncover the mysteries of the past and the secrets that lie in the shadow of death. Highgate Cemetery remains a testament to the enduring power of storytelling, a place where history, culture, and the supernatural converge in a narrative as complex and captivating as the tapestry of human existence itself. So, we leave the gates of Highgate Cemetery behind, but the story lingers, a whisper in the back of our minds, a shadow that follows us into the night. The legend of the Highgate Vampire, and the tales of those who rest within these ancient walls, invite us to return, to wander once more among the tombs, in search of answers, in pursuit of the unknown. The mystery of Highgate, like the mysteries that lie at the heart of all our tales, remains an eternal allure, calling us back to the place where history, culture, and the supernatural meet. As the final echoes of our tale fade into the silence, we draw the curtains on the story of Highgate Cemetery and the legend that has woven its way through the fabric of London's history. From the whispered tales of the Highgate Vampire to the solemn beauty of the cemetery's resting souls, we have traversed a landscape where the past and present, the tangible and the ethereal, intertwine. In the chapters of this story, we've journeyed through the gates of one of London's most iconic landmarks, exploring the shadows and the light that define Highgate Cemetery. We've delved into the mysteries and the legends, the history and the culture, uncovering the layers that make this place a testament to the human experience with death, memory, and the supernatural. As we conclude this journey, it's clear that the story of Highgate Cemetery is far from finished. It continues to evolve with each visitor, each whisper of the wind through the trees, each ray of light that dances across the tombstones. Highgate remains a living narrative, a place where stories of the past inspire the imagination of the present, where the veil between worlds feels imperceptibly thin. The enduring fascination with the Highgate Vampire, the efforts to preserve and restore the cemetery, and the constant interplay of history, culture, and the supernatural ensure that Highgate Cemetery will continue to captivate and intrigue. It stands as a reminder of our shared heritage, of the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding, and of the stories that connect us across the ages. As this podcast comes to an end, we invite you to carry the tale of Highgate Cemetery with you. Let it inspire your own explorations into the stories that lie hidden in the shadows of history, waiting to be told. For in the end, it is our fascination with the unknown, our reverence for the past, and our collective imagination that keep the legends alive. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the gates of Highgate Cemetery. Until we meet again, may the stories you find in the shadows enlighten your path and spark your curiosity. Farewell, dear listeners, and remember the tales we tell are the bridges between the past and the present, between the world we see and the world beyond sight.